Liz Evans, who's your Assistant Secretary, and I know has done an enormous amount of work on the response that's going to go into the ATP. And I'm sure that's probably what you're going to talk about, Liz. So
indeed. Thank you very much. Yes, the ATP plan, of course, from the Land Registry is a very, very long document. But when it comes down to it, it doesn't have a great deal of substance, and I think it can be reduced down to three main areas. One, it claims we have too many staff. It claims we need to save money. And it also claims that there's too much property owned by the Land Registry. And it needs, therefore, to reduce its estate. Now, I know that there are many of you here today who do work in offices where there is spare space. And Hull, Coventry, etc., caused by last year's voluntary redundancies, has plenty of room. But the plans to close 5 offices in the southeast, how on earth will this address the spare space that's available in all the Land Registry offices throughout the land? It will do absolutely nothing. Reducing the total size of the Land Registry building in no way generates economies when it comes to space. So I would put aside this as a spurious argument, and one really that is not motivating the proposals for the cuts. Really, these proposals, as I say, come down to staffing cuts. And the first point is, do we have too many staff? Well, if you listen to what the Land Registry have to say, yes, we do, they say, there are too many now, then I would be suggesting that any customer walked into our offices would expect to see about a third of the staff sitting around, drinking cups of tea and fiddling with pencils. Of course, this is not happening. Staff at the moment are pushed to the limits because of the round of redundancies that occurred last year in response to what's called the tail-off of the market. Because do not forget, the market reduction, such as it's been, was addressed through a huge redundancy program that occurred about 12 months ago. So the claim that we now need to redress the market and the staffing because of that is absolutely absurd, because this has been done. So what we do in our response to the Land Registry's program is we take apart what its case is, which ultimately really is back of a fag packet stuff. And I know I'm a smoker, but I do say that in seriousness, because there are contradictory statistics, there are errors, there are mistakes, massive flaws in its productivity assumptions and budgets, all of which we expose and show to be false in our response, as will be published next week. We also turn to what will happen when the market increases, as it will. And we show that by paring the numbers of staff down to the levels proposed, that not only will staff struggle as they would do at present, but once the market starts to rise, it would be untenable to run with the staffing levels that it intends. And the Land Registry will have no other way of managing this other than recruiting staff. Now, recruiting staff in the face of a redundancy program doesn't make sense. It's a slap in the face for those who've gone, and it also is a waste of money on the public purse. And we're not going to have too much difficulty, I believe, in showing that the Land Registry will need to recruit, because its own business plan identifies that it's going to be recruiting about a minimum £600 staff. £600, that would be, they would want that, which will cost, we say, many, many, many millions. Now, the official reason for this is quite interesting. I'll share this with you. And this is that one of the points in the business plan, they say that the Land Registry staffing is unsustainable. They think that we are effectively too old. They say that our age profile, running at 45, is not acceptable. And therefore, one of the major drivers is to address that and bring down the average age. We say, how are you going to do that? They said, recruit younger staff. This is what the 600 extra are for. Well, when we pointed out really that possibly this was illegal in terms of age discrimination laws, etc., it all went very quiet in the Land Registry Board. And really they've not come up with much apart from abandoning these plans. And of course, in abandoning these plans, they have now any justification at all for the additional recruitment and the consequential costs that this will indeed bring about. So if we then move to the second reason, first one being staff cuts, what is this? Well, this is the need redundancies save money? Well, of course not. Once you start adding in the amount of recruitment that will be needed to backfill when the market rises, the amount of training costs, the amount of administration costs, none of which, by the way, are added into the Land Registry's own preferred method of presenting their statistics and their costings as part of their programme. Once you build those in, we will show that there is very, very little evidence that their proposals do represent any form of cost saving, let alone service improvements to the public. So our point is really, if the Land Registry wants to save money, why not do as we will suggest? And what we will suggest, I think, is a common sense approach. And this is to look at the offices where there genuinely is surplus space and looking to share that space with other government departments, downsize to more suitably sized premises. There are many ways of doing this that would save a considerable amount of money on estates, which then hopefully would represent a genuine, as was with sham, estate saving. And we think this is important, notwithstanding the fact that the market may rise. This, of course, is not something that the Land Registry really, I think, truly has paid much attention to. I think there's a genuine belief that the market will remain depressed. And as Michael mentioned earlier, one of the documents we obtained, by the way, through the Freedom of Information request, showed the Minister asking our Chief Executive this question: have you given thought to what happens when the market rises? What are your thoughts about the market? And, you know, the response was, well, we don't have any in-house economists. This is serious. Now, this probably is true, but you'd think, wouldn't you, with all the hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on consultants, why didn't anybody decide to spend a bit more and try to get an economist in to give some advice on the state of the market? Because none has been given, and the assumptions contained within the accelerated transformation plan really do not hold up. So that really is just an overview of the type of areas that we are going to be covering. As I say, we will show that their plans do not stand up to scrutiny, and as Dawn said, are ultimately quite irrational on a number of places. We show that they run the risk of driving staff levels so low that the Land Registry will not be able to cope with an upturn in the market. And we will show that they warrant expensive and extensive recruitments which do not save money and will not help the public purse at all. We've got quite a detailed document, which, as Michael said, we will be getting out next week to people. And I would urge all members to read and support the case that we make. Thank you very much.
I think that just proves how much work's gone into the response, and I know that's on the back of comments that a number of you have provided as well. And also I think it just reminds us that we can offer as unions sensible ways of making efficiency savings and saving money, still delivering a good service. The problem is that no one seems to be listening at the moment, neither management or politicians, unfortunately. There's been a talk about an alternative vision, and I know Roger Seifert, along with Mike Ironside, has been responsible for producing this really, really important piece of work that offers, again, an alternative way of registering land in the future that is of use, not just to the workers and the Land Registry themselves, but to the entire country, actually. And that's why it's really, really important that we do that kind of work as well. We're not just saying, no, don't do this, but we're offering a real, viable, practical alternative.